So whether or not you realize it, at any given time, your bash shell actually has a lot of environmental variables that are already set. And if you want to see those environment variables, if you just come in here and say print env, this is actually going to print out literally all of the environmental variables that are set right now. So you can see things I have in here like my path, the mail client that I prefer to use, the user, the PWD, the home, the ls colors. This is like all the colors that if you do ls-lash, like what color is used where. I don't know the syntax, you'd have to Google that. And just so what we can do now, we can say, we can actually use those environmental variables. So if I say echo user, it's going to echo Ubuntu, or echo hello, my name is user, right? It's going to say hello, my name is Ubuntu. And so when it does this $user, it's interpreting that, or it's going to go out and find that variable and replace it. So it's actually bash that's doing that, not echo. So it's actually done when the command is run. So let's say if in this particular case I just wanted to change what user is, I can actually come in and say user equals Brian, and I say echo same command, right? But now there's a different variable in there. It should say hello, my name is Brian. Now keep in mind this is actually going to be for just this particular session, right? So as soon as I log out and log back in, it's going to drop that variable, but it is sticky for the rest of the session. So if I come back in here and say Ubuntu again, it's going to say, hello, my name is Ubuntu. Or let's say we wanted to do one with greeting. So I can say echo greeting user, how are you? So it's going to, there's nothing here for greeting, so it doesn't know what to do about that. So let's make greeting equal to hello. You don't have to put the quotes there in that particular case because there's no space there. So if I run that same thing again, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to say hello Ubuntu, because it's going to be all one word because there's not enough spaces there. Oh wait, no, it actually did space them out. Every time this thing surprises me with how this ends up working. But in any case, so now I can actually come back here and say hello. I can change this to greetings. Run this again, and it says greetings Ubuntu, how are you? So these are like variables, and the reason why these are like variables is because they are literally variables, and so you can use these as variables. Now what happens if I want to make some of these permanent, right? Like let's say I have some sort of preferences here. The first thing you can do is you can sudo vi etc environment. So anything that I put in here, let's say test thing equals blah blah. So now if I write and quit here, and I don't think it'll work on this one. What did I call it? Test thing. But if I quit and open shell again, now if I say echo test thing, every time that my bash session starts up, it's going to reread from that. But the interesting part of what I've done here is if I sudo su, or if I switch user to Brian like I had in previous ones, and I say echo test thing, looks like Brian has it as well, right? Because that etc environment is shared by every single user on the computer, which is not necessarily what you want. Usually when you're setting environment variables like that, you want it just for that particular user. This is similar with etc profile and etc bash rc. Like that's actually system-wide resources. So you can actually set the bash rc. We'll talk about bash rc in a little bit, but you can actually set it for every user on the computer. Most of the time you just don't want it. You want to set it just for your user. So let's go ahead and see how to do that. We're actually going to do that right now with bash rc. So I want you to say vi ~bash_rc. Or sorry, not _rc. That's not the one you want. And also I don't want to be as Brian anymore. I want to be back as Ubuntu. So I'm going to say clear ls, and who am I? So you can see that I'm Ubuntu. I'm going to say vi to my .bashrc, no underscore here. And you can see here there's actually quite a bit already in here. Normally that's not necessarily going to be the case when you're running Ubuntu, but because this is multipass gives you a bunch of like very good defaults that you can fall onto. So I'm just going to go down here to the end, and I'm going to add a new line here, and I'm going to say export another variable equals something cool, and I'm going to write and quit from here. And now that's going to be run every single time that I start up this particular user, right? But man, I can never remember what I called it. What did I call it? Another variable. That's a great name, Brian. All right, so right now if I say echo another variable, we're going to have the same problem, that it's not going to work. And actually that wouldn't work in any way, because what we have to, we did. So that's what that export name right there means. It means like I want to export this out to like the general environment. What I can do is I can say source bashrc as well. That actually goes and reruns it, because that bashrc is actually just a script that it runs at the beginning of every single session. So now if I do this echo again, now it's there because that bashrc has been run. So we'll get more into bashrc at the very end of the course. But suffice to say, it's where you're going to do all your customizations, right? It's going to be where you like change your prompt. It's going to be where you set up like scripts to use. There's a bunch of stuff you can do, like all the colors that you want to use, and then set up in variables for just your user. And that all goes in bashrc. You want to put all that stuff in bashrc. Now, a thing that people always ask me is, what's the difference between bashrc and bash_profile? I had to look it up for this course because I can never remember. All I can always remember is use bashrc, don't use bash profile. One's a relic of the past, which is the bashrc. So the bashrc is always run. And what I'll actually end up putting in the bash profile, which is only run at the first login. So the first time you open bash interactively, that's when bash profile is run. So in 100% of my bash profiles, so bash_profile, we'll open that in VI, I just put this particular statement. If -f bashrc, then, and I'll put source bashrc and fi. Well, oops. We'll get into like what this actual syntax means of like the if statement and all that kind of stuff and how to do more bash scripting. But all this thing does is it says, if a bashrc exists, run that, otherwise do nothing. And that way you can be assured that every single time that your bash session opens, that your bashrc is being run. And that way you can put everything in bashrc and not worry about bash profile. Again, if you needed something to only run on the first interactive login shell, which I really cannot imagine what that is, but if you had that need, you could put it in bash profile. Otherwise, just put it in bashrc. Does that make sense? So yeah, I keep all of my environmental variables in bashrc. Cool. Does anyone have any questions about that? So every user has their own bashrc. You can see here I have mine right there. That was created for me. I didn't have to do anything for it. Brian would have their own bashrc, so every user has their own. There is the one in, so if I say sudo vi etc bashrc, if I put something here, this would be a bashrc for everybody. I really don't know why you would ever do that, but it would. That's where you would put it.